Yay, we're live!
Did we go dead?
One day as I was wandering through the aisles of my heart's store, I bought myself a pictomicron and some Bristol board. I made a fancy comic, and now I am all set to be the greatest web cartoonist on the fucking internet. I'll have a forum and a blog and links from DVD. I'll get reviewed by a web star, and William G. The world to be a roaster, I think it's a safe bet when you're the greatest web cartoonist on the fucking internet. When you're the greatest web cartoonist on the fucking
Trying to figure out the key.
Hello, good morning, and welcome everybody to another episode of Planet Earth Live, the show also known as the Zardoz Connection. I'm your host, Chuck Whelan. I'm here today with my regular co-hosts, Amber Greenlee, Chris Porro, and Dale Sipperly, who will be smiling down benevolently upon us. And, well, how's everyone been? I'm working on my introduction. I don't really, I'll get it down. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Well, I had a great night last night.
Me too.
Chris took me out. We had a wonderful time.
Chris,
Actually, 2 nights in a row, I've been out dancing with Chris. He had another date on Monday, and she couldn't make it. So he took me out on Monday, and then I took him out last night, and we had a wonderful time.
Town red, just you and Chris.
Yeah, we were skipping down the street
Yeah, good.
with our paint bucket.
You know, it takes a real man to admit their love for their friends.
That's right,
You
and
know?
we're both very real.
Yes. Yeah, you know. But yeah, so what'd you guys do last night? Did you go comic shop hopping or something?
What?
Comic shop hopping.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
No.
Wait, what should we talk about first? We'll talk about the knockout room first. We went to the knockout room last night, and the knockout room was an amazing show. It was really good. And we went to see my friend Artemis Shatskin. Her band is Supersonic Symbiotic. I bought the t-shirt. I was going to wear it, but she warned me it was probably too small, and it's a bit too small, but I'll find someone who it fits. It probably fits Tina quite well. So, yeah. And we got the CD, and I signed her for the Urfspace album.
Yay!
She's gonna she and her drummer friend likes her and the drummer, and it's very hardcore. It's very good. It's great. So that's going on the album. Then there's another band playing.
Ollie's here.
Right, okay. But it was a night of coincidences. It was a nice coincidences because the next band on was these guys, Charm World. They were great. I hadn't heard of them before, but who turned up showed them? But my next door neighbour Mark, Mark's an awesome guy. He's an excellent musician. I've asked him to contribute to the Urfspace album, and he says he's going to, so that would be awesome. But this band playing, they were fantastic. They were really good, and so I also asked them, so they're also going to contribute to the Urfspace album. I've got some tracks already from some other very good friends. Oh, here's Ols. Here he is. He is.
I was trying to tell you we had a guest, and you're just, I love music.
Well, I was doing my monologue. Ols, welcome, Ols. All right, I'll bring Ols up in the main page because we can talk a bit more. I was just talking about my night out with Chris last night. We had a lovely time out dancing.
Look, he's
I'm very glad.
Not that my dancing. Chris can testify that it fell over me
he's
several
even
times.
nice enough to use earth art for his background. You know, that's a true friend.
Oh, Ols, thank you. Oh my God, I thought you just had your house redecorated.
No, I had my house redecorated. I put up a huge green screen with Earthworld all over it. But hello, everybody. Good morning to you all.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Here, I'll look this way,
nice
so
to
it
meet
looks
you
like I'm looking at you.
So I'll introduce Ols a bit. Ols is here with us from Farnham, England. Farnham is a beautiful town. It's a town, but it's quite an old town. It's a sort of like, they might make it up to look like Jane Austen sometime. I don't know if they've done that recently, but in the past they have. and it is sort of does look a bit like that. But Ols and I grew up in Basingstoke. Well, we can get into all that story, but Ols is also a musician. So Chris has been wanting to talk more about music on this show, and I'm just talking about this. I'm trying to put together an album. I've sort of checked. It's very coincidental. So I was talking about last night. So I had a night of coincidences, and Ols showing up was a bit of a coincidence. Anyway, I mean, we sort of message off and on once in a while, but we got to messaging. Well, I was messaging you about this Urfspace album, and I'm suddenly like, Ols will be the first to testify. I'm very unmusical. I've always been quite unmusical. I remember we played a game once where you stick a sticker on somebody's head. What do you call that game? And you have to guess who they are.
Yeah, I know.
And you have to guess who you are, rather. And I think I had Madonna, and I wasn't guessing, and I wasn't even guessing musicians. It was like and Ols was like, there's just a whole category that you're not even.
If it helps any, I'm not that person either.
You're like New Testament.
Well, like music on the radio, like I hear the same songs over and over again, but I cannot pair bands or singers with songs. Like if you ask me, who's this? I'm like, I don't know, is it Tom Petty? No, this is like Nirvana or something. Like, I mean, I'm talking, I am far off. Ian, on the other hand, my significant other, he knows every single song lyric to every song on the radio. I don't know how he does it.
Oh.
It's like a magic trick. Yeah.
Like Gilbert Gottfried would always seem to know all the song lyrics to everything.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yes, he was always singing like obscure TV theme tunes, and he knew every single word.
He probably got the line correct in the Flintstones that it's a gay old time.
That one stands out. That's the only line I do remember.
Yes.
Anyway, so like we'll talk a bit about music. Yes. So yeah, Ols, how are you doing? Yes. So yes, how is your musical life these days? Like last time I was at your house, which was before the pandemic, was it? It was your 50th birthday. It was like one of the last sort of things. Or was it in the middle of the pandemic? I can't remember. But you had like a wonderful birthday party, and you had some of your friends played folk musician, your friend Eva, who had her band Sleepy Folk, and your neighbour, and he played some Richard Digant songs, which like that brought a lot back, because you don't hear Richard Digant over here.
No, I guess not. So, I guess that was a little while ago now, but
yes, that was years ago. Yes,
we do like to try and keep our hands in with the local music scene to some extent around here, which is there's a whole mixture of things, as you'd expect, a very rich musical culture. But I confess I'm a little bit like your friend here, who doesn't connect songs with tunes. I'm much more kind of interested in the performance and how it makes me feel. And I've got two sons of 11 and 8, and I'm really kind of hoping that one of them in the house does build up a great encyclopedic knowledge of music and connect them to the songs, because I'm forever just forgetting who did what and when and what have you. So I'm much more interested in the performance and how it makes you feel, and do try to record from time to time as well. So just finished up a recording of a Beatles song, Across the Universe, with my goddaughter and Guy.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. I would love to put that on the album, but that was so amazing. But I'm trying to do it proper, and yeah, I can't. Beatles publishing rights, it just makes it too difficult. Yeah, but
so the character as Pufel, I know as Guy, who was a friend of ours from years and years ago, who I just saw at the weekend as well.
Yeah, I call him Geezer.
Yeah, Geezer. So
Pufel looks like Geezer. He behaves. He sort of behaves like Geezer. He's a bit. They're all like half these guys and half me. So Bish, we'll get into it. Like Bish was Ollie's character. He was a cleric. I don't know, but then the Bish character, he looks like Ollie, but he's sort of my good side, and I always punish Bish.
So I have to back up here. So you based beautiful characters on your friends.
Yeah, but I don't think it's so strange, because actually I found out that E.C. Segar, who did Popeye, he based those on people that he knew. I mean, there was our D&D game, and that's just like, I sort of knew how to draw them, and I knew what their characters were, but actually their characters in the game were quite different from how they drew them, and like how I wrote them. And as I wrote them, well, they're a bit like them, but then they're sort of like me, and then me sort of putting them, because, as Dungeon Master, you put your characters through their paces. So,
Yeah. Well, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say my recollection is that we when we were sort of playing this D&D somewhat bent out of shape after an hour or two of coming back from a pub, quite bent out of shape.
Yes, we would play it like we would play it like
yeah. We then kind of invented these characters, and Guy kind of played this wizard character, and I kind of invented this cleric character.
Yes, original wizard Pufel. He was more of a hippie. He had like a hippie beard. Like I have a drawing that I did think I somewhere I have a drawing where I did it of Guy's Pufel, or Guy's drawing of him or whatever. Like he was much more a kind of a sort of long bearded hippie sort of type. Yeah.
And then our other friend kind of invented this thief character, and another friend invented this barbarian character, and all of them have, in the Jackal and Thug and Bish and Pufel, have sort of then been twisted beyond recognition from their initial inspiration into these hilarious characters that get up to all sorts. And I'd like to pretend that we even in our bent out of shape state, we're able to come up with the creativity that Charlie has. But
but you feel you guys all inspired it.
Nothing,
and my love for you guys.
At the beginning, but we might have been there at the beginning, but really nothing to do with the where it went from there.
Well,
you look like you were going
not true actually. Guy wrote some strips. You've all said various things and done various things. So.
Do I understand correctly
Straight in there.
that Pufel developed from drunk D&D games?
Yeah.
Well, is that hard to guess? Do you remember Leah Hernandez? I haven't seen her for a while, but she saw that back in the day, and she was like, "Oh, you played way too much D&D."
Okay, and your nickname is Charlie?
I tend to go by Charlie back in the old country, but I found that if I say Charlie here, like I would say Charlie, people don't really hear it. So you would say Charlie, and I can say Charlie.
You don't say Charlie.
Well, I just found like Chuck. I prefer Chuck. I these guys actually would call me Chuck a lot, and like Guy especially, he always calls me Chuck. So.
Well, I would like to think that I was partly responsible for starting to call you Chuck a lot, and then it took on from there. So
I think it was, I think it was largely you guys,
You were pretty much Charlie to everybody, and then for some reason, I don't know whether it was kind of around the time where you met Tina and decided that America was actually quite a nice place after all, that you thought that you would actually make a more
it's true. I didn't
version of your name.
I didn't like the East Coast when I first came to States, and I was on the East Coast. My cousin lived there.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend. Our friend Dan. All right, so on the East Coast, day of coincidences, Mercury going into retrograde. My friend Dan Richer, who I met on the East Coast. Now, Ollie's one of the tallest people I know. How tall are you, Ollie?
Well, I mean, I'm actually about 6 feet 7 inches, so if I kind of just. I'm actually pretty tall.
Good demonstration.
I start standing up, and then it takes me quite a while.
I'm 5'3".
Why? I thought you were on the metric system.
Oh, okay, 202 then. Whichever you prefer.
Yes.
I'm not on the metric system.
He's like 6 miles tall or something.
No,
like that.
bizarrely we like to measure our height in feet and inches, and every other distance apart from driving in miles, which is different, of course, to the US mile. But everything else we measure in metric. So yeah, it's a very confusing place to live, the UK.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard the corgi is now a unit of measure.
I think it has been for some time.
Oh, what's happened to the corgis? Have they all been axed?
It's been standardized.
Yeah, rehomed, I think.
Oh, and the coronation's coming up. What's going on? What's happening with the coronation?
I have no clue.
What?
I know there's a lot of controversy over,
not the person to ask about
Markle attending, and there's like controversy over the fact that Harry has, he sent in his RSVP, and they're like, oh, he's attending his father's coronation, and I mean all this other drama.
Yeah, that's all we've heard about is that Meghan's not going.
it's like, Proctor's tell-all book. It's like, everybody kind of assumed they were all messed up. And I think the book just confirmed what a lot of people assumed. Yeah. But,
there's going to be a lot to get excited about for a lot of people. I don't really count myself as one of them, except that I'm kind of curious because it clearly is a historical event, and I'm keen to tune in from that perspective and kind of see what it's all about. And the British royal family do put on a show pretty much like nobody else, so there'll be some pomp and circumstance, I'm sure, that those that love it will revel in.
They're going to bring out the crown jewels for this one.
Yeah, well,
what was that thing Lenny Henry used to do? The jewel in India's passage.
Yeah. But let's not dive too deep about where all those jewels came from and how they came to be. And so
I am firmly in the category of the British Museum is a loot stronghold.
It's not just the British Museum, though. The British Museum is in this little town called London, which is pretty much a loot. It's
armed and dangerous. I never saw that city about the movie about the walking cities. What was that one? Sorry.
I don't know, Charlie. Where were you going with that?
I was just to pull out a side drawer. I never saw that Peter Jackson movie about the walking cities, which looked good to me, but Tina saw one glimpse at the trailer and she was like, that looks like shit.
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines, yeah.
My 11-year-old is our 11-year-old has just finished reading the book, and the author, a guy called Philip Reeve, just came to Farnham, which
Day of Coincidences.
Day of Coincidences, and we'll come back to Dan Richer in a second. You hadn't finished.
Yes, we got that's another one we got to get back to. Yeah.
Let me just finish on Philip Reeve. So, Philip Reeve is a British author and has written. He wrote Mortal Engines, and Peter Jackson got the rights about 15 years before he made the film. He showed up at a Farnham Literary Festival, which sounds enormous. It's tiny. We went to a bookshop with maybe 30 people and took the kids, and he did a really engaging presentation, really fascinating guy, talking about his more recent books, and also a little bit about Mortal Engines, and just standing there listening to the guy who wrote it, saying, that he enjoyed being on the set, but really had absolutely nothing to do with the film. Was actually a pretty interesting perspective on the whole thing. But
that's ridiculous because they were like very sort of laborious about being faithful to Tolkien, weren't they? And then, well, I guess they weren't. Some people say, they were good or not, but then they've got the living author right there, and they're like, well, we'll ignore him.
Yeah, well, I guess he was, really not. You could read between the lines and say he was really not happy with the way it was transcribed into film. But I think it's a very ambitious book to try and make into a film anyway.
Yeah, I like the concept.
I'm a fan of Howl's Moving Castle. If you're talking about like moving living structures.
Well, I guess that was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, for crying out loud, one of the main characters melts into a table because he's sad.
Yeah. Now, Ollie, have your kids seen those Miyazaki movies?
She's seen Spirited Away.
No, I'm asking Ollie, actually, Amber, because I don't know if they have them in England.
I haven't seen them, no, but ping me a link and I'll I'll see.
Okay, can we get those links up, Amber, for all the Miyazaki movies where he can watch them in England? They had them on Netflix before. They had them on Netflix. Like My Neighbor Totoro.
They did see that. They did see that, and they loved it. There was some really kind of interesting concepts coming through in those films, and they're kind of quite trippy, quite spacey, but
they're all excellent. They're all excellent
fun about them, and really, really good. Yeah,
I got a link in the private chat about an article that Studio Ghibli films are going to be released on Netflix UK, like within a couple months. So there you go. So you should be able to find them on Netflix if you have an account.
Well, definitely. People in England, check those out. Especially if you have kids, but even if you don't have kids.
What's your private chat link?
Okay. Let me try and find it again.
My Neighbor Totoro. I mean, for fantasy, I love Castle in the Sky. I mean, that's awesome. And Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, those are more like the epic fantasy ones, sci-fi fantasy. Those are really great.
So,
like Totoro and Ponyo are like the sort of little kid ones. I love Ponyo. Ponyo is a more recent one. Some people said, oh, he totally lost his marbles on Ponyo, but I think it's one of the greatest. And
I liked it.
yeah, they're all good. You know, and then there's something like what is the recent the one about the plane inventor, When the Wind Rises, which is like, that one's not even really a kid's film. That's like an adult film.
Well,
that sounds like a kind of a bloating issue, there, Chuck. Or is there something else about that film? It's just
are you talking about Castle in the Sky?
Title.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm going to call that my autobiography. But
okay, well, here's an interesting bit about Castle in the Sky from Studio Ghibli. So the name of the castle in the sky is called Lapida, right? And so they translate it into English, and they make up all of this marketing material and stuff. And then when they were translating it into other languages, they were using the English version for the translations into Spanish, into Italian, into French, right? Well, the Spanish translators are like, Lapida means the whore in Spanish, right? So they had to pull all this marketing material, change it to Castle in the Sky, and it was too late to change the actual dub of the film. So that's why it's still called Lapida in the film, but all the marketing says Castle in the Sky.
Yes.
So I just thought that was an interesting thing, because in Japanese it doesn't mean anything. It's a nonsense word.
I think they should have kept it. It's a better story. Just keep it that way. Do some fun press conferences in, where was it? Is it Spanish-speaking countries?
Spanish-speaking countries, yeah.
Like half the world do press conferences.
It's La Puta is what it sounds like. And puta
La Puta. Yeah, okay, La Puta, yeah.
Well,
right.
You have to remember, there is a tradition with animators to hide adult things in animated films.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Spanish-speaking world. But now,
this is a family show.
Now,
it's true. I mean, there's any number of examples in Disney films.
Oh, we lost Ollie.
We lost the guest.
The satellite feed's down.
I actually had a guest.
I'm back again.
Question for him. So do musicians do that? Do they add sexual, innuendo and stuff into their songs? Chris?
Never.
I wonder, do they ever do that?
Does any? Well, I mean, there's so many countless versions of records that are then released with the tame lyrics, and the live gigs, or the kind of bootleg versions always have the original intended lyric.
Yeah.
So an example would be, do you remember Pulp from the 90s? A British band. They had a.
Pulp. Yes, the Common People.
So they had exactly. The track "Common People" is a very good example.
Yeah, I don't think they're that big yet. Check them out.
I recommend you listen back to that. But there are plenty of others. Radiohead would be others.
They're big here. Everyone knows Radiohead.
Is a good example.
But Pulp not so much, because Pulp were also when they got big in England, they were also kind of a late career. Like, they were quite old for this to suddenly get as big as they did, I think, as a band.
Yeah, so whether they're big or not, or whether they're US or UK, you'll certainly find countless examples of the intended lyrics being edited for the radio version.
Well, this is on point, Ols. Thanks. Yes, that brings us back to the point, because yes, Chris.
Most unlikely.
No, well, Chris. Well, back to the Urfspace album, which is the topic of the show, the future sounds of Urfspace. So Chris has got a number of tracks that I'm really keen to use. One of them I love that I wasn't really sure about, which is his track "Raw Dog," which definitely means I have to put
a dog that has a hot dog that hasn't been cooked yet. Obviously, that's what
it is until she explicitly says I'm talking about a dick.
Oh, well, that ruins it a little. That ruins some of the mystique.
But otherwise, it was really good. But actually, oh, sorry. Yeah, Amber's child's on fire, apparently.
She has to now explain to her child what a dick is. Thanks, Chuck.
Well, I played it for Tina, though, and Tina loved it. So, so I think it's on the album now. But, so I'm going to have to put... Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a song about uncooked corgis, but turns out
That's a good image.
Well, over here, Ali, I don't know if you know this or not, or maybe it's known in England too. Like raw dog is a term for unprotected sex. And I think most people
I am now aware of that. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, yeah.
A foot long corgi, a foot long. I'm thinking of
there's
some sort of joke with a foot long. Are we talking about measuring things in corgis?
Should we revise the lyrics and re-release it?
Yeah.
You can be in the credits.
Can't help think we're sort of drifting a little from the family show theme here, Chuck. But I'll leave you as the supreme editor.
Yeah, we're more like the man.
Right, okay, yeah, all right. I'll think about that later on my own time.
That's more of an attempt we make.
Well, Ollie, I have a question. You live in. I'm unfamiliar with where you live. Is this a small town? Is it a village? Is it a suburb? Is it a small city?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a town. They call it on the road sign coming in. They call it a craft town. There used to be a beer history here, and
now it's a craft town.
It's a craft. It's been a craft town for a very, very long time. It's a fairly small town, only of I guess about sort of 80,000 people. It's probably less than that even. I don't know. Look it up on Wikipedia. It's Farnham in Surrey. And the county is Surrey, and we're about 40 miles west of London, so it is very much commutable. A lot of people who live here, get a train into the city, takes an hour to work, and then we like to kind of live right out on the edge where we have some nice green spaces in the forest, and it's a beautiful place on the edge of the Surrey Hills to the east and the South Downs to the south, which is a beautiful natural environment that's all protected, so nobody can build on it anymore, and it's a stunning place to live. Beautiful English countryside.
Now, you said that you took your godkids, or was it your kids, to the bookstore?
Yeah, it was my own kids.
Your own kids. Now, do you have a lot of bookstores, comic book stores, art supply stores, or is the internet like Amazon started to affect that?
Yeah, we actually have in the town we have a university for the creative arts. So so there is a pretty well stocked art store or two nearby. We have a pretty creative bunch of people, kind of walking around in various stuff that's all ripped at the knees and stuck together with various things that are on trend. And you kind of have to push them out of the way to get to the supermarket, we kind of have a pretty thriving music community as well, and there's various other companies that are kind of pulling from that talent in the creative university. There's a big games company that is around here, and other kind of creative industries and marketing industry as well. So yeah, it's a pretty buzzy place.
So it's a college town.
Yeah, it's a small college town. But
it's really sweet. It's a lovely place. Yeah, it's great. It's a great part of the world. Yeah.
You have to remember that living in the United States, you see either London on television or movies, or you see these small towns where everyone gets murdered at least once a day.
Yeah, we live in the latter.
Okay.
Yeah, only it tends to be our egos that get murdered by all of these people that live in the city and earn far more than we do. But it's really,
but they have to pay a lot more.
It's really a nice place. Yeah, there's not a lot to write about from Farnham. We have this. You should just check out a Facebook group called Farnham Rants, RANTS, and Farnham Rants is the best place that you want to go if you really want to know how good at moaning people are who live in this area. And it can be anybody around. We have a roundabout called the Shepherd and Flock, which is a roundabout is what Basingstoke is most famous for. But
I'm a big proponent of roundabouts. I could get on a whole digression about roundabouts. That's a whole other show. But UC Davis is big on roundabouts in the city of Davis. Yes.
So you can link to it from that next show. But all you have to do is just cross the wrong lane, and you'll get an explosion on Farnham Rants.
Yes.
That's the real way to find out what it's like. So less death, less headline news internationally, but certainly its fair share of social media.
We have roundabouts here now, but the problem is we're not used to them. So you can get stuck on one for like 3-4 hours.
Roundabouts of the future. Dale's like most Americans are like Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's European Vacation. They're just sort of going round the roundabout, going.
I like that inner lane. That's my spot.
I used to do that. I used to kind of find big roundabouts. It was around about the time that I got to know Charlie really well, and some of those kind of late night trips somewhere. I used to
I'm the roundabout guy. I'm all about
just
roundabouts.
simply because it was all a little too hectic to get off the roundabout, if you know what I mean.
Like Basingstoke is a roundabout. It's a roundabout town. There's some poem that describes it ringed with ring roads. There's a very good song, The Towers of Basingstoke. I've used that one a few times.
So, by the way, Ian Wallace says hi.
Oh, Ian, buddy. Ian. Oh,
Hope you've recovered. Yoni.
Can we send him a link? Can he come on the show? He's a very good artist.
Oh, is he in the chat, I guess?
Ian, do you want to come on the show as well?
What kind of music do you do, Ollie?
Or you want to come on next week, Ian? Ian can come on next week.
What kind of music do you do, Ollie?
So I guess probably the best way to describe it is folk rock.
Okay.
So I guess I'm a acoustic guitarist. Have been since I was about 11 years old, and I've played in bands during my 20s and early 30s. But really just like just picking up a guitar and seeing what I can bash out. So I wouldn't say I have time with the kids coming along. That really sort of hammers your time. But I do like to pick it up still whenever I can and try to record with people and make fun.
When you talk about folk rock, are we talking about like putting a policeman in a giant wooden statue and lighting it on fire, folk rock, or?
Well, not
what an interesting
that
visual.
familiar with that.
Dale's been watching The Wicker Man again, which is a good movie.
The old one is good.
Well,
the one with the cage is not.
No, I mean, I was a big fan of Spinal Tap. I guess.
But I'm in a very small Wicker Man.
I was going to say they got the dimensions wrong. Made it from toothpicks. No, but where was I going with this? I've no clue. I'm actually a big fan of a lot of the sort of musicians that came out of the end of the 60s and 70s from the West Coast, and bands like Crosby, Stills and Nash, and that is like absolutely home territory for me, and that kind of close harmony and simple guitar playing and that kind of thing.
Beautiful.
That rocks my world.
Oh yes, now David Crosby.
English,
David, Day of Coincidences. my son just finished junior college, but my friend was recommending that he went to the Santa Barbara Junior College, but it was a bit late for that decision. It looked like a nice place, and I checked it out. And David Crosby went there. He was chief among their alumni. So just a small addition to the fire of coincidences that's going on today.
The rapper Little Xan went to my community college.
Lil Xan, short for Xanax?
Yeah, Little Xanax.
Lils.
Well, okay.
I can't keep track of all the Lils.
This is his entire career, okay? He released one song on YouTube that was actually really good. And a rap label picked him up. And then he didn't do anything. He was lazy. And the album he released was described as having so few words on it that it was basically like tracks for other rappers to use. Because it was just like music.
It was like beats, you write your own lyric album. Like it's a project for you.
Well, I guess he didn't write anything. He didn't record anything. And so it was most of the other musicians' work that were around this guy. And so then the label dropped him, and that was the end of his career. That was all of Little Xanax's career.
For now.
Yeah. Well,
it's a mean world.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, he got an advance, like a huge advance from the record company, and then he just blew through it. He bought condos for his mom and cars, and like all.
Well,
this.
that's what you're gonna
That's
do.
That's a popular
YOLO.
spending plan for your release.
But he went to Redlands, or he was from Redlands. And then he went to San Jacinto Junior College, which was my junior college, after his career fell. And so it's like, yeah, little Xanax went to my junior college.
So Amber,
that was where we were going with that story.
Amber, you probably heard the joke. You probably heard the joke. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Yeah, the Americans are. They're like, what? What? There's someone at the door. Bam! 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 Bam!
That wasn't the joke I intended to tell, but you seem kind of told a funnier
tell
one.
the joke again with
I didn't
everyone being
catch
quiet.
after who's there.
No, okay, knock, knock. Bam! 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 That's the joke.
Yeah.
I was talking about Ollie there.
That's the American version. Yeah, knock, knock. Who's there? All right.
Who's there?
No, I think we should move on at that point.
Okay, I got one. I
have
got one.
nothing to add.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Hi.
Hi, who?
Oh, haiku. Okay.
Haiku.
There once was a man with depression. I don't remember it. I'm sorry.
Should I go back to the knock knock joke?
Yeah, let's try and start again. Start again.
Yeah.
Amber, knock knock.
Who's there?
Little Xanax.
Little Xanax who?
That's showbiz.
That
a bit of a mean one.
I love it. You can take a bow. Yeah.
Maybe it was worth coming back to.
All right. My favorite joke.
That's
of
an
all
old
time.
joke. I
All right,
like it.
since we're talking about stupid jokes, okay? What is brown and sticky?
Now, I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I know the answer, so I'm going to keep quiet.
Do you?
Oh, I know it.
I don't.
No.
A stick.
Oh. I didn't know.
This killed in the second grade classroom.
It's so silly.
I do know how culturally diverse people who live on the West Coast are compared to the rest of the US, of course. But is everybody familiar with the Italian accent? That's more of an East Coast thing, I guess. But are you familiar with Italian?
I think everybody is.
I
Yeah.
guess
Oh, we've all watched
okay.
The Sopranos.
the New Jersey
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
there
New
you go.
York accent,
Yeah.
But
So
there's
this one might fly.
There's a long history in media.
Yeah. Italian accent. My friend John Flores, he's Italian. He's got a lovely accent.
Excellent. Well, this one might fly. What do you call an Italian with a rubber toe?
What do you-
Rubber toe!
I love sixth grade humor.
Dad jokes. We invented the dad joke segment of the program.
Okay, well,
wrong with
I
dad
take that
jokes.
as the cue to move on. Charlie said,
Oz is well in he's in the dad joke zone. Like those jokes, every one of those is
I got
landing
it.
back at the kitchen table.
All right, sir, I got a serious question. Ollie.
Give me enough rope. That's
All right,
all I'm gonna say.
So from your transition in like throughout your musical career and stuff,
Into
what is the
womanhood.
hardest genre you've tried to tackle?
Well, I think the heart. It's not necessarily the genre. I could answer that a couple of ways. So I trained as a classical musician, and without a doubt, that was the hardest work that I've ever put into music. So that was years and kind of taking every grade and working your way up through. And fortunate enough to play with some really, really talented, far more talented than I was, musicians during that time. So I still have a really strong appreciation for classical music and try to find ways of incorporating classical music themes and ideas into any music that I do actually create or record. But
Metallica, they started out as classic musicians.
Yeah, and Muse very much so as well. If you know Muse, they've kind of really incorporated a lot of their classical training into their music. But I would say the bigger challenge that I have is not really genre based so much as technique based around musical production. So when you're used to creating and writing songs, then actually going back into the tech equipment and actually trying to master the tools is my biggest issue, because I really don't like reading the manual. I'd far rather just make all the mistakes by doing something, and that just takes forever. So just training myself to actually learn how to mix and master. And even record things with the output in mind, and really try to visualize that, or kind of create that audio image of what you're trying to create, and then really go about the building blocks and being disciplined about what you leave out and how you engineer it to actually sound one complete piece at the end of it is really really tough skill to acquire, and one that I still work very hard to try and get better at.
Has it gotten easier for you over the years as the technology has improved?
Oh, without a doubt. So over the years, if you kind of go back to when I started playing the guitar, the only way I had a way of recording myself was to press the kind of record and play on the cassette machine and try and make it sound less than awful, which it never did. And these days, the technique is so much more possible with the tools that are available, even the garage bands or Pro Tools, and being able to just be able to record directly into a computer and then mess with a good signal, but mess with that sound to be able to create what you want is a joyous experience compared to where I started. So, you really can create something that sounds, okay. Ian, who has joined the call, actually kind of put the earphones the other night. We got together for a friend's birthday. I put some earphones into him in the middle of the evening, and he gave it a listen. So I don't know. Feel free to comment, Ian, if you're still there. And there was something enjoyable about it. But that's kind of always the goal, is to just try and create a bit of an impact.
Yeah, on the production side, for me, it's like 5% of the time is writing the song, and then the other 95% is producing it. The production takes up all the time, actually.
Yeah, exactly that. I have no idea what that image is.
I like it.
I've never seen it, and I've no idea who the guy on the right is.
That's the album cover I did for them back in the day. This is probably round about, I don't know, it might be right before I started doing Pewful.
Oh, that's great, man. I would not even recognize that as your stuff, Chuck. That's
yeah, I don't know. Yes, it's funny. Yes, I look at it and I sort of didn't really go that way much, or I sort of left it because I thought, I'm not that great. But then when I look back at it, I'm like, there was only a few, there's only a few things I would change now. I overall, but I wouldn't change anything. But it's like, well, it was much. I'm still quite happy with that one anyway. Yeah.
I mean, especially like I don't know what's actually inside the album, but I always like it when the artwork is kind of a visual representation of the music. So when you see the artwork, you're like, I'm pretty sure what's in there.
Are you? I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's quite sort of folky, you guys, on your guitars, and
yeah. So I mean, the that time, the stuff that I was writing with Guy was usually kind of highly satirical pokes at the Thatcher government and various other things that we didn't like very much, including a lot of the people that lived in the village where we grew up.
Yeah, I kept feeling they were all about me. I feel like half of them were about me, but that was just being paranoid.
Yeah, but just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that we didn't have a pop from time to time. But
I thought the lyric was, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Exactly it.
So are these supposed to be like, are these based on people on the front? Are these two people that you guys know? Are they?
Yeah, they're not real people. They're not real people. It's an abstraction from Chuck's deranged mind.
Yeah.
We were highly clean living, very preppy looking people, just writing very intriguing and interesting, clever songs. Nothing like you'd expect from this album cover. But I mean, I still think it's a very good piece of work.
Well, this is really this is me. I was reading a lot of Judge Dredd and the Freak Brothers at this time. Those were the things that I like the sort of 2000 AD, so that sort of black and white art they had in there. But also, I like the sort of cross-hatching in the Freak Brothers and Robert Crumb. So I was a bit more like, since then, I also moved away more from cross-hatching. And I don't know, it's funny, like Shadows I'm coming back to more. I totally went away from Shadows. Like, I guess going to children's book work, but I sort of I didn't like Shadows much anyway, I think. I don't know, now I like them more. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit funny. I sort of was a bit. I'm just weird. I just sort of do what I feel I have to do.
Yeah, I look at this album cover and I think, that guy would be a great children's book illustrator.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, like, who is it? Maurice Sendak? No, it's not Sendak. It's Shel Silverstein, where I see pictures of him and he looks like a total madman.
Yeah.
And this guy does children's books. He looks like he just killed someone.
Yeah.
And it's on the cover of it's on the back cover of the children's book.
Well,
Yeah, I love Shel Silverstein. He's
I
like
do
one of
too.
my favorite, poets.
Yeah, same here.
well, look at the early work of Theodor Geisel, who became Dr. Seuss.
Shel Silverstein wrote. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember which song it was. He wrote Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash.
Oh.
Yes.
You know what
He wrote
that's
that.
About. Yeah.
I mean, Roald Dahl wrote adult stories for Playboy. His adult stories are great. What became Tales of the Unexpected TV show, but then he's got his sort of even sexier stories like My Uncle Oswald is very good. No one's ever done that. No one's adapted that. I mean, that's like... My Uncle Oswald, they're going around the world collecting the semen of famous people in the sort of Victorian era, and they're like, she's going in and seducing all these people like Marcel Proust. Well, they got a problem with Marcel Proust because he's gay, and and it's all very sad. I suppose it's like it's erotica. It's very. He wrote them for Playboy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, has anybody here read In Search of Lost Time?
No.
No, I haven't.
Don't, and that's why that's why there is the sort of shorter version in Playboy or whatever. Because anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that. But
what am I supposed to be reading again? In Search of Lost Time.
Well,
yeah, don't read it. Is my point.
Well, I mean, as soon as somebody
but
says
who by?
Proust, I think it's going to be
Marcel Proust.
By Marcel Proust.
What is your critique? Why shouldn't I read it? Is it just boring?
Yeah, I mean, dentistry without the anesthetic is slightly more enjoyable. It feels like a very long walk for a very short drink. But he was. If your thing is painstaking accuracy, then then some people really find it a masterwork. But nobody has time. The world moves too fast, and nobody has time these days. So either to write a book like that or to read it. So
no, yeah, I've been actively trying to find the format that is suitable for the low attention span world of today. Yes.
Yeah, I made the mistake of reading Tom Jones. It took me over a year.
I was just thinking about that movie though. That was a great movie.
Oh, the movie's good too. I saw the movie before I read the book, so a lot of my visuals were colored by that movie. But at the same time, I really enjoyed the book. The plot still compels you, and men are still dogs.
This is not about the singer, I take it.
No, not Tom Jones, the singer. No, it was written, I want to say, 1700s, and it was a comedy novel. And so back in those days, they did serializations in newspapers. So, every chapter was like published once a month in newspapers. And so he has several books of Tom's adventures all condensed into one book, which is Tom Jones. I got a screen.
Oh, I see. So it was sort of like a serial and then it's compiled, but it's regarded as the first novel, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
yeah.
it is amazing. I hope you either speak Latin, have a Latin dictionary like I did, or they also have annotated versions that translate the Latin. But there's so much Latin in it; that's so much part of the story that I highly recommend getting the annotated copy if you're going to read it. And it also explains a lot of stuff in footnotes. I didn't have that one.
Ooh, great.
Search of Lost Time. So that's what we definitely should read. No.
No, what we should
Ollie, to get off topic a little bit, to go back to music. Now, are you performing at all, or what's the live music scene there? Is it stuff in pubs or clubs? Or?
Yeah, so we have a kind of the community does have an old. So in this area, I mentioned that there was a brewing industry and other things. Anyway, so they used to have all these hops brought to a place called the Maltings, and the grain brought to a place called the Maltings, which has now turned into this wonderful community centre with a big hall. But it's kind of all these old brick kilns and so on that used to roast all the hops and the barley. So, sorry, you used to roast the barley, not roasting hops. Anyway, the point being is that there's this lovely community place that does have some theatre and music scene going. And we also have a place around the corner from us, which is which has a regular music night on a Friday, which is all full of singer-songwriters, and that's where we actually saw Eva that Charlie was referring to earlier in the show. Was a singer-songwriter who has an amazing voice, and we got together with this band called Sleepy Folk that I believe might make its way onto the concept album.
I really would hope so. I mean, that would be amazing. If they're on it, it's going to be an amazing album. It's going to be so good. I'm very excited about all those records.
Right, so yeah. I'm curious to understand a little bit more about the concept of the album. So in my rather kind of Marcel Proust way, I want to know exactly what is the concept that you want to convey with the album.
Well, okay. I'll tell you what. I'll grab the books because I've got them over here, and I'll display them. Hang on, just take my headphones off.
And just to fill some time, I don't know. Am I to you guys? I forget which way the camera is pointing. Am I facing left or facing right to you guys?
Okay,
you're
facing
right,
my right.
All right. I'm going to see about event.
Remember, I'm using a standard camera. You're using a metric camera, so it may not.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might be right. What I was going to do is do a recreation of the right-hand side of that album cover, but it's disappeared from the screen. But anyway,
here we go. Oh yeah.
A recreate, like you're gonna draw?
No, you're facing the wrong direction. Turn to the other right.
Well, see, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if this was based on.
Okay. I think it was something like that. Anyway,
something like that. Yeah. All right. Here,
how many live recreations have you had on this show? That was just a segue, Charlie. Just trying to fill some time for you there.
No, I'll come up big now. Here we go. I'll big me. All right. So, there's two books here. I've got Urfspace Heroes and Urfspace Beyond into the Radlands. So these are my proofing copies. They won't have this grey stripe. That's just the proofing copy. But here are all the pages. So these are all the drawings that I've been doing.
Chuck, you're mirrored. You gotta flip your.
I'm mirrored.
Yeah,
that's good. That prevents copyright theft. But yeah, all right. No, all right. I'll do it. Hang on. How do I do that? Hang on. There's a setting somewhere. Here we go. Video setting. Here we go. Mirror camera. There we go. All right. Okay.
Okay. Now try holding up a book.
Sorry. Yes. All right. All right. So Urfspace Heroes. All right. So here we go. Here's a couple. There's Boss Lady and Danish Potato Girl, and they've got new little captions and stories. So these drawings have been out, but actually a lot of them haven't been seen before. I've got. Now it's not mirrored. I don't know what I'm doing. It's more confusing. The 6 secret clones of Cleopatra, they're all in there. Anatomically incorrect android man. Space rat, strong woman. Super even Satan. They're all in here. Thunder Woman, Siren, Ugly Erica, Sheriff Gloria Fox, all these characters. So this is a book of sort of superheroes. And then the other one is Urfspace Beyond into the Radlands. That's more of a travelogue through the realms of Urfspace. Welcome aboard. The Heroes one's a bit like like a sort of dating service or something. And then this one's got all of these sort of images. Some of these are paintings I've already sold. They've all got like a little story. And you're on a voyage through Urfspace. The land of the hand.
So I figured out the future exhibit for you, okay? You need to build an installation that's an experience and just have projectors everywhere, like just constantly cycling through all of your drawings.
Well, okay.
And people would be amazed by this. Wow, Urfspace!
Day of coincidences. So I'm going to see this afternoon, hopefully, about a place to have an exhibit on the beginning of September. It'll be like sort of night, probably, and hopefully a launch party around the 9th of September. It'll be local, but it's like a gallery space. So I've got to check it out today. So the theme of the album is Earth. The Earth, probably mostly more about sort of the Urfspace Beyond, but also the Urfspace here. So, the album will be using sort of imagery or whatever. So it's a sort of companion piece, but I think it's more a companion piece to sort of Urfspace Beyond. But these are my concept double album, and that'll be the album that goes with the concept.
So if you could describe your concept, so asking a visual artist to describe the concept in audio, what are you trying to convey to the audience in the album, or how should it embellish the books?
Well, so the books, I've got all the ideas and thoughts and things that a lot of things that I've been thinking about and talking about and wanting to say and wanting to get out there in the world, and so it's all in here, and I've got many friends that like make amazing music, of all different kinds. But so I just sort of had the idea of putting this album together of the music to go with it. I mean, it's just stuff that that I like, that is emotionally connected to me because of it's being done by my friends, and but also but then everyone does a sort of range of music. So I'm looking for things that are fitting within this sort of sci-fi cosmic travel realm, but it's a sort of range. So it's sort of it can go between folk and heavy metal via like Tangerine Dream or something like that.
I guess I was just wondering, is there something kind of thematically that you sort of want to join it all together? Is there some even some
it's a journey,
some ideas behind the characters, or so
yes, it's a journey through Urfspace. Yes, all right. So so it starts off. So the story of the book, if there is a story, you're sort of welcome aboard. Here's Captain Cocktail. I'll read you a passage.
Will it be like Dark Side of the Moon?
Yes. Cheers, everybody. The captain is here with her cocktail to wish you all a pleasant voyage around Urfspace. Just a few notices before we depart. You should have all signed the waiver, but remember that you proceed at your own risk. The wonders of Urfspace have been contained in a format that should not warp your puny human brains too much. But expeditions such as this are known to produce reality-altering effects. Just follow the captain and don't forget your meds. So that's the opening passage.
Please enjoy this complimentary soundtrack.
Yes, that'll be our complimentary soundtrack. Yeah, so the first page we've got the ship is ready for takeoff. Now, this is a sort of deep image from deep in my psyche. It's sort of sexy lady Chewbacca. I don't know. I won't go into all the meanings behind this picture right now. But she says the ship is ready for takeoff, and this thing's going bleat bleat bleat. Pookies make great flight engineers and will keep you warm in the cold, dark depths of space. They're often accompanied by veggie droids, which are altogether far less useful, but do help relieve the boredom of interstellar travel. Over here, it's very important we keep everything normal. The Normulo people are found throughout the cosmos and play a very important part in establishing a baseline of sanity in what has become an increasingly bizarre and incalculably complex universe. However, spending any time with one of them may result in a loss of enthusiasm for reality and an inability to see some of the greater joys of existence. So, you know, it's like a Straw Peter, updated for the modern era.
Ollie, think the disco version of the Star Wars Cantina song meets
Oh, yes.
Tunis Midlife Crisis.
Yes. Yes. Dale nailed it.
Wait,
Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
the band in say that again, Dale.
You want the Star Wars Cantina Band song disco version meets Chuck's Midlife Crisis.
That should
In
be
a
a
way,
review.
what Chuck is doing is, and forgive me, Chuck, if I'm completely full of crap,
Yes.
is you're being influenced by Playboy cartoons.
I don't know that I'm being influenced. I'm being influenced by many things.
I know
Playboy cartoons,
they're
they're not high prominent in my idea of what I'm being influenced, but they're probably in there, yeah.
These have a 70s Playboy cartoons vibe, like the stuff that Kai Bland did.
I don't know if I've seen all these. Chuck.
No, most of them have not been, like, many of them have not been seen before.
Yeah, like I don't know if I've seen that fairy. I feel like I've seen the Third Reich girl.
Yeah. She's been out there, but now she's more sense. Now she's got a little story about Sophie. Sophie had always loved wearing her uniform. She'd worn it with pride since she was a young girl, dreaming of the day she could join the Urfspace Junta elite. It made her feel important and professional, like she was part of something bigger. It was a symbol of who she was and all she had accomplished. And she wouldn't give it up for anything. She loved the way the fabric hugged her curves, and how the hat made her feel important. To Sophie, wearing her uniform was more than just a job requirement. It was a symbol of pride and dedication to her work, and she wore it with joy every day.
Ollie,
Charlie, is there an undercurrent to what you're trying to say there, that a lot of people who might have fallen into, shall we say, far right tendencies are just in it in a fashionista sense for the
Sexy uniforms.
cut of the uniform?
Yeah, the sexy
Well,
uniforms.
you might be
part
right.
of it.
You might be right.
I was just talking to my ex-wife the other day about this, and there's some political, or no, he's like a billionaire. There's a scandal about one of our justices on the Supreme Court. Anyway, this, I assume, billionaire has been giving him things, but they're attacking the billionaire because he has basically Nazi memorabilia. And I was like, well, you know, the design's really good on that stuff. I mean, like, you know, I don't know if that makes me a Nazi, but I can recognize good design, and, you know, somebody had an eye.
Well, it's horrific, though. I mean, they had one of the exhibits they had when I went to the Imperial War Museum a few years ago when I was in England. They had one of the eagles off the Reichstag. They had like sort of 10 objects. It was a small exhibit, 10 objects to like show you World War II. Like one was a flag that a sailor's mother or soldier's mother had hand stitched to like take on the D-Day landing. But then they had this eagle off the Reichstag, this big black thing. I mean, yeah, it was beautiful and horrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, curious on this point. You know, nobody here is actually, you know, gonna say that there was anything good about the intent behind what happened.
Just because they have style doesn't mean it's not evil stuff.
Well,
It's not evil. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's
That's it.
like, you know, those boots, like, you know, they're cool boots, but I'm not going to wear them.
You're not gonna wear.
You know?
Well, yeah.
Amber,
You can, I mean, you
you
can dress
should wear
like you
those
can dress
boots.
like this then. This is what the women of the future will be wearing.
Okay. I'll start the Lady
feel like-
Gaga look now. Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of going
Yeah,
off
you
topic
watched
here,
a
but
lot
I
of
think,
Space 1999, Chuck.
It's all in there, isn't it? Smoking Devil Dino Guy. See, I didn't really know what I was doing with her till then I wrote the song, and now I know. Now it's a poem.
No, I'm
Ollie?
serious about
So,
the
Charlie,
installation.
do you think-
Just play music, and you know, people will be like, "This is amazing."
Yeah.
You know, play the music from the album and stuff, and you know, you can have like a live play session for the
Oh,
opening.
you should play it over your drawing sessions when you're streaming, maybe. Oh, you might get nabbed for. You'll get nabbed for that. Yeah.
Yeah, from you.
No, it'll automatically. Like I tried to upload one of our songs to my, I think it was my private account on TikTok, and it wouldn't even let me post it. Like the song ID is so good now that it grabbed it before the post even went live. And everybody has song ID now, and it's pretty good. And you remember that time we showed? I can't remember. It was an old British show, and we got nabbed for that. Like it was one of these streams.
Oh yeah, we played the theme tune of The Prisoner.
Yeah. So if you stream this stuff, I assume most of these people are on like a digital distributor and they're copywritten, and it'll get song ID just like that. Well, the only thing you might have going for you is like we're not big, well-known acts, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it gets pulled. You should try it.
Yes. Well, yes. So that's going to be something I don't know about. Yes. So I'm gonna learn a lot about being a music impresario, and it's interesting. Like, yes. So the musicians I've asked have all been like very kind and offered things. And I'll pay a royalty and do it all properly. And and I've got to sort of figure out like, well, how much of what sort of contract is appropriate and all that. Obviously, I'm not really doing it as a profit making, but if it makes profit, I'd like the contributors, the artists, to benefit from it in terms of sort of link backs and general publicity.
Yeah. I feel like it's all upside.
And I'll make some art and do it, and then hopefully, and then I'd like to release some of them video, or at least, I'm making the videos. Like, it's usually easier if the music's already on the social media. Then I can add it. Like, so I can upload a video and I can add Chris's music on Instagram because Chris's music's already on Instagram. But it's good to have if I've got a sort of official album, and then I'll sort of, I can tag my friends. It's just about sort of tagging my friends and showing my friends' work. But I'm sort of, everyone's done a few things, so I'm just trying to pick the things that I think are going to sort of most fit this sort of space travel journey idea, or travel journey, or fly, or what if it's got lyrics, if the lyrics resonate. So you sent me a few things, and I'm definitely of those three, I would most like to use the Beatles song, but I can't. So I would have to say, Jonah Jones is great, but that's probably the most sort of specific with the lyrics that, and the other one fits probably better. The everything's better in C. So, what is it? Worst things happen in C. Worst things happen in C. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
The last time I read about cover songs, it was pretty straightforward. There was like a set amount that you had to pay for every like a copy that went out there. I don't know, but this is 20-year-old law. But it was pretty straightforward. If you wanted to do a cover song, you had to pay exactly this much every time. Like, well, back then it was like mechanicals, like stuff, units in stores, but now I guess it would be like per stream or something. So you'd have to take your 1/100th of a cent from that stream and give 10% of it.
Well, I probably wouldn't be taking away any streaming revenue, because I would have it as a sort of single. It would be like you would download the album. I would just offer, I don't even know how I would offer that really. Or I'll probably just print the album. I don't even know if I'd have it as download. I'd probably just direct it to the artist's sites even for the downloads.
So
I don't know.
Jack, are you going for the whole experience? People buy the books and they listen to the music while they're reading the books?
Well, I've written the book, for people in short attention spans.
Okay.
So you can sort of dip in and out of it. You can just look at the pictures. You can read the captions. You can read the story, like the book. If you could read it cover to cover, and there'll be some sort of a through to it. Yes, it's a coffee table book to look at, or it's a bedside book, and you can listen to the music and look at it, and the music. But the music's also just sort of evocative, and I've just sort of woken up to music in recent decades. I mean, it's going back to where we started, Yeah, I didn't pay a lot of attention. I wasn't good. I had a bad music teacher. I don't know. She made me sort of turned the pages on the piano, and I was a non-singer. And generally, music was a sort of unpleasant, traumatic experience for us.
Have you considered a scratching sniff card, or maybe some incense to go with the book to get the whole sense?
Okay, so now I'm thinking. Okay, so hopefully I'll have a date. Hopefully I'll get a date sorted for the opening, and then I'll sort of work backwards for that. But for September, I would have time to do like a Kickstarter. So there may be an opportunity to offer things like that in a Kickstarter.
So,
But those are good
Charlie,
ideas. Can I write that down, Dale? What did you say?
So this is
Scratch and
basically a
sniff.
brainstorming session for you, Chuck.
Yeah, so, while we're on the theme of brainstorming,
I'm a parasite
we
on
have
society, didn't you know?
we have a science centre that's really great for kids, not far from where we live, and it has this cool planetarium. We saw this show about aliens last week. Took
Very
the kids
cool.
there as the Easter holidays. Yeah, and they loved it. And what's so cool about the planetarium is that you've got the ability to merge 3D video with 2D images. And so just, Charlie, be thinking in 3D when you're thinking about an immersive visual experience to go with your album. And
Yeah. Okay.
and
So this event, yes, that's a very. They're thinking 3D. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm writing that down. That's a
So,
good. Yes.
Ollie, what do you mean by like merging 3D experience with two-dimensional images?
so if you imagine being in a planetarium, you've got a curved dome that you're looking at, right? So you're lying back and you're kind of looking up, and it's not necessarily just into space. It can anything that is manipulated.
Ooh,
Dome shape.
space projection. Space projection. Yes.
Space projections it can really make you feel like you're right inside. You're actually traveling through the space because of the the unique experience that you get from a curved surface.
Ooh, I wonder if I could hire
There was-
like a big projector, like indoors, like one of those ones they used to light up buildings, but you put it indoors and light up the whole ceiling or something.
On that,
so what I'm wondering is whether there's some kind of Shutterstock space with planets type of vibe that you would actually be able to then get the PNGs of some of your images with the text and be able to kind of bring the whole thing together a little bit without a huge production cost. Obviously, if you wanted to do it,
Chuck,
if you wanted to do it really big, it would be incredibly expensive. But I think there would be an inexpensive way to do that.
no. I got it right now. Okay.
Amber's got it.
I got it. I'm posting it. I'm posting it in the chat even. What it is?
She's
an
gone
inflatable.
public. She's got it
It's
so
an
good.
inflatable planetarium.
Oh, there you go.
It's an
Portable.
indoor inflatable planetarium. You crawl in, and then you sit on the floor, and you have the dome surface, and you could have this in the middle of your exhibit, and put anything on the
Wait,
projector.
how big is it?
Let's see. This particular one, you have different sizes. You could have one that's 13.12 feet across, 16.4,
Love that.
19.7. There's 23 feet across or 26.25 feet across. So that's the largest dome option.
Can you jump
Cool.
inside it?
Yes.
Sweet.
Chuck,
Yes, because
you can-
it's inflated.
Chuck, you can go on Amazon and buy inexpensive planetarium projectors for your bedroom that people buy for going to sleep.
Well, yeah, this looks great. I was just thinking about a few Zardoz
If you
cutouts,
want
really, but
a
that's
small
that's
budget.
good.
Yeah.
What? You don't want my $33,000 planetarium?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, it's
waiting so the whiskey
$3,300.
gets the brand name dog food.
No COVID
Since you
concerns
mentioned it,
whatsoever.
I was wondering: is there some kind of way of getting a kind of
I don't want to flavour.
a smell and taste experts in there as well? So you're kind of eating your raw dog while smelling the sweet smell of whichever character or environment that character is from. When you
Yeah.
bring them up onto the
No.
screen. So,
Yeah, I don't like that. It looks like I don't know what's going on in there. It looks like the place where the crack fox lives. If you ever see the
Really?
Mighty Boosh,
Yeah.
the episode with the
You
crack
don't
fox,
want- you don't want
it looks like he
to-
lives in something like that.
They have video of people enjoying it.
what is the crack fox? Tell me more.
You've never seen the Mighty Boosh, Ollie? Do you know the Mighty?
You have to remind me about the crack fox.
There was an episode with the crack fox. It was a horrible thing. It was one of the later episodes.
Okay.
If nobody knows, I'm not going to explain the crack fox right now, but I want the whole space to be like inside that dome. I don't want to have like a dome inside. Like, no, when you come in the door, you're in the dome.
Okay. So if you want space, here's stuff that
Yeah, I think some star, like if there was like star project. I mean, I want to project the art. Project the art, but yes, project some stars would be quite good. But apparently, the space. I'm going to have a look at it. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's quite a dimensional space. It's got an upstairs, a downstairs. Hopefully, I can have a DJ, and hopefully, maybe some musical. But like Tina as well, probably just a DJ is like the thing for that, and so we'll see. But the album definitely will be part of it, and I would like for that to be part of the evening, and I would like all the musicians to be part of the
Chuck, what would be on your silver platter of futuristic foodstuffs to send around in canapes for this event?
Yes, well, that is a good question. Yes, there'll have to be. Yes, the whole thing will be a sort of a VIP. See, the thing is, if I do the Kickstarter before, I can sort of say, well, anyone coming to it's got a 200 people capacity. So yeah, as Jerry points out, no COVID concerns whatsoever. All right, thanks, Jerry. It's got an outdoor area.
Yeah, you want to serve Tang and space food sticks.
Yep.
Tang. Tang. Oh, Tang. Yes, Tang. Yes. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. What else?
Space
pills. Remember, in the future, all food comes in pills.
Yeah, what are they? Go back and watch 2001. I'm sure loads of food ideas in there.
Oh, a freeze-dried ice cream.
Dehydrated water.
That's expensive.
Yeah, dehydrated water.
Freeze-dried ice cream is expensive.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Hasn't it got cheaper over the years? Powdered insects. The insects are the food of the future.
That's true. Insects.
I think fairy cakes, Harry. You've got Tinkerbell in there. Charles.
Oh yeah, fairy cakes. Fairy cakes.
Fairy cakes in there as well.
Oh yeah, Chris's ex-wife used to run a cupcake blog.
Yeah,
so he should be somewhat of an expert in fairy cakes.
Totally,
as we call them in England.
There you go. You've got an expert live here to talk about it.
Well, I don't know how much he knows about it.
In extreme detail.
We wrote a book about a cupcake. We wrote a cupcake-themed children's book.
What? I came in at the right time.
That's true.
Yeah. No, Chris wrote a cupcake-themed children's book, which I illustrated, called Pocket Full of Frosting.
I didn't really think of it as cupcake themed, but it is.
You didn't think of it as cupcake themed. The whole thing occurs on the surface of a cupcake.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cupcake eating. There's a lot of cupcake promising. There's frosting in the. But like, if I was going to describe the book to people, I would be like, it's a cupcake themed. I would be like, it's a childlike adventure imagination thing.
It's called Pocket Full of Frosting. She wants to have a cupcake. Starts off, she wants a cupcake. She shrinks small and goes across the table, gets on top of the cupcake, plays in the frosting, meets an ant, cakes the cake out and feeds all the ants with the cake. Comes back home is very happy. I mean, it's cupcake.
Pocket full of frosting?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
okay, so now we're going back to that earlier subject about hiding things in stories.
There's no hidden things in this story.
That came from a pocket full of shells from a Rage Against the Machine lyric, and I thought it was funny. I mean, nobody's probably going to get that except maybe Rage fans, but pocket full of shells, I thought, like, what's the kids' version of it? It's a pocket full of frosting. Okay. That's where I came up with that line.
But also, Chris was like a bit tired of all these books that had a moral lesson for children, so he wanted to write one that had no.
Right. I don't.
It does have a moral lesson though, but
yeah. And also, I was tired of boring kids' books that have to be like very like eating sugar is bad. Like little kid lies are bad. That they're all I mean they're not very interesting to me.
It's cupcake propaganda. I think you were hypnotized into writing that story.
I'm in Big Cupcake's pocket.
No, I think about it's nothing but cupcake propaganda.
You got to get the kids young if you want a lifelong customer. So we get those books in there.
Cupcake fad is over.
But
it's been over for a long time.
Cupcakes are delicious. They're never over.
I mean, well, the whole thing. The Magnolia thing, the New York City thing, the SNL thing, that was around 2000, so it was about 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Cheryl was she was on the crest of the wave with the cupcake thing.
I think she was on
what's the?
She was
fad
leading it.
food
She was
for
forming the
anybody?
wave. The wave was sort of.
Yeah, she was a little late, probably, to be honest.
She was a little late. Okay.
Well, because Meg, I don't know if you guys
Big Cupcake
remember,
was already coming in.
yeah, if you watched like SNL, right, around 2000, there's an Andy Samberg skit where called Lazy Sundays, which is fucking hilarious, and I recommend anybody watch it. It was kind of the beginning of the digital short, and some of Andy Samberg's stuff getting on the show. And there's a scene in there where they go to Magnolia and mac on some cupcakes. I think that was kind of the high water mark for the cupcake thing, and that was, God, I want to say that was early 2000s.
Ollie, in where you are in this town where people don't get murdered, what is the fad food there? Because we would assume it's fish and chips and chicken tikka masala.
Look, there's always going to be a place in my heart for fish and chips and chicken tikka masala. But yeah, it's a pretty I'd say kind of fairly well off area, and so all the usual diets that you can find get recycled here too. And there's quite a few that are kind of emerging. So you'll tend to see quite a lot of healthy food around, but. Yeah.
There's a good diversity. I mean, yeah, there's some sort of like Farnham, downtown Farnham is quite sort of boutique-y and fancy.
Okay.
Yeah,
but then the area around is just regular. Yeah.
This is sounding more and more like Palo Alto with British accents.
I don't know whether it's as upscale as Palo Alto, but
I don't know.
It's a fairly we'd say
Mountain View,
British middle class kind of area. We don't have an Apple store. You have to go to the heady heights of Guildford or Winchester. We sort of have this town right in between two old cities, and there's a road that joins them, and halfway down is Farnham. We're not big enough to have an Apple store or or anything kind of big and exciting like that. But in terms of food, we do have what pretty much every small town will have. There's Thai, there's Indian, there's just about every other kind of diversity that you would expect. In a place that likes food, people go out a lot. It's a nice place to come and eat.
Where do your kids beg you to go?
So they really out of the house. They beg me to get out of the house quite a lot. No, but where do they go?
Anywhere but here, Dad.
Where do they want to go? Is they don't have an ice cream parlor in Farnham. They have a frozen yogurt parlor called Froyo. So that's where they really like going, and that's just kind of a healthy way of putting all the. I mean, even the sprinkles there are kind of some sort of neutered sugar that isn't actually sugar and isn't actually chemically going to kill you. But I don't know what they tend to like.
You don't have
ice
cream in your town?
Wait, frozen yogurt is ice cream.
We can, yeah. Well, it kind of is ice cream, but it's sold under the auspices of being, but slightly less bad for you.
Yes.
It's one of those ridiculous quirks, isn't it? That everything, even the salads, right? Even the salads at McDonald's have more calories in them than the burgers and chips. But it's the way things are these days. Everything has a healthy twist to it to try and make you feel like you're not killing your kids. But there we go.
No, but the universe is trying to kill us all the time. I don't know. Well, I get into a debate with my more positive thinking friends that in fact, Annika was like, "Yes, no, that's not a good way." Annika, Ollie's wife, Annika, she did not like that. My idea that the universe is like we live in a universe that's constantly trying to kill you. She's like, it's the opposite, it's sort of so that I thought that was a very important point of view.
I have to explore this a little more. So, Ollie, you're a musician. I can see that you're wearing Apple AirPods.
I am.
So you're a Mac kid.
Yeah.
And do you go to these Apple stores in these other towns?
Good Lord, no.
Oh, you don't?
Well, they tend to be filled with either people that are trying to get something fixed and the queue's too long, or a load of kids that just want to try out the latest device but have no intention to buy them. So I don't really have a reason to go there. I have my kit that works, and I have a relatively old Apple phone that I get it upgraded begrudgingly. It works. It does
upgraded.
What I need to. I'm not a tech.
I just wanted to know.
Upgraded.
I just wanted to know what a British Mac Genius was like.
Yeah, I wouldn't know the answer.
Oh, well, I can tell you, because you know they had the I'm a Mac and I'm a PC ads here, and here it was John Hodgman and I forget that actor's name, that young guy, but he's good. And in the UK, it was Mitchell and Webb.
I have no idea who that is.
Oh, you don't know the Mitchell and Webb?
No.
Is it like Penn and Teller, but British?
Well, they're comedian. They're like a comedy duo. They're available here. You can find them on
like Penn and Teller
shows. Yeah, look up Mitchell and Webb. They've been on.
Oh, do they have a show called The Mitchell and Webb Look?
No, that's a different Mitchell and Webb. Yes, that's there. And they also do that show Peep Show, which is excellent.
No,
those are very good. If you haven't checked those out, definitely check those out. But in the UK, they were the Mac and the PC.
I would assume that in the UK for those ads, they would have had Rowan Atkinson and Brian Blessed.
Well, they wouldn't have been able to afford them for a long-running advertising campaign, whereas Mitchell and Webb were like young, up-and-coming comedians, so they were easier to sign, probably.
Okay.
And on the theme of Mitchell and Webb, I can recommend a book by one half of them, David Mitchell, which is his very undersold and very hilarious. Dishonesty is the second best policy.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. I read one of his other books. Yeah, I saw he's got that out. Yeah, all right.
Which is a really good book. So, check it out.
Yes, okay, and while I'm on the subject, I've been listening to the new Alan Partridge audio series. I just love Alan. And then they had Alan Partridge live. I just watched that. Oh my God. He just goes from strength to strength. I just love Alan so much. Takes me back. I remember watching the first like Alan's show, like probably on the couch in your house in Balham.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and then he keeps doing this character all through and back then it was like, it was a bit more obscure. I mean, but like now what he did back then is like just all the more enhanced by all the things he's done since, because he doesn't like each individual thing. You're like, who is this idiot? But then when you see it all together, it's just so phenomenal.
It's a work of genius.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
The only things that I see are British. Either have men in drag or people getting killed, and there's some priest or nun trying to solve the murder.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty representative of society on the whole in the UK. So that's probably why people make stuff on those themes. We do have some other stuff, but I think, Chuck, back me up. I mean, that pretty much sums up British society these days, wouldn't you say?
Murder? I don't know. Yes, I don't know what I couldn't tell you anything about British society. As far as I can see, you all lost your minds at some point. Like since I left, like as soon as I left, it was all like, "Cool, Britannia, Britain's great, isn't it wonderful?" Now I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." But now you've all gone and fucked it up, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a strange place to live.
But no, it looks nice. Well, that's good. Now you're like Switzerland.
Only better at shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, and a nicer
climate. A good place to park your money.
If you
isn't that the Swiss? Isn't that the Swiss thing? That we're neutral. You put your money here.
Right.
No,
we're not.
Will roll over our banks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And look at these clocks and chocolate.
Yeah, we're not qualified financial advisors.
Look at this.
That
Alpine
reminds
Village.
me. Look. There's a Swiss-ploitation film that I just saw the preview for, Mad Heidi. So after the show, go on YouTube and look for the preview of Mad Heidi. Switzerland turns into a fascist cheese state, and she has to fight the fascist leader.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's called Mad Heidi.
Have you ever seen Iron Sky?
I've seen clips of it.
Oh, you have to see Iron Sky. Iron Sky 2 is also quite good, but Iron Sky is brilliant.
Is it connected to Mad Heidi somehow? Does it have?
Well, It's about Nazis on the moon, like some Nazis led by Udo Kier are like hiding out on the moon, and Sarah Palin is President Palin. You know, it's very funny. It sounds similar. Like when I hear something like Mad Heidi, it makes me think of that.
Sounds like a modern remake of The Sound of Music so far, Charlie. On the moon.
Yeah. Oh, Christopher Plummer. Well, he's always good.
Do you guys have a movie theater in town, or like a multiplex, or?
We apparently will do. So there used to be one. It was old and it got knocked down. And then they started this kind of process about 25 years ago of debating shouldn't we develop this space in the town centre. And that battle raged for many years. It was a bitter battle, and finally what got won by a group of people that said, yeah, we are going to develop this town centre, and part of it is going to be a multiplex cinema. So eventually they started kind of clearing the ground and pouring concrete down, and then COVID hit. And the sort of bottom fell out of the construction industry, and everything went on pause. So now we've got some bricks and some concrete and some other stuff, and this sort of vain hope that the 25-year dream of the cultural elite of Farnham will actually turn into a viewing experience sometime in the next 25 years. So, you know, who knows? We've got to hold our breath. And,
Ollie, aren't you the cultural elite of Farnham?
I am, yes, interested and self-appointed.
Yeah, well, you should get on that. You should get on that arts council or whatever.
Yeah.
What's life like there? Because here in the post-COVID wasteland of the United States, you know, people work at home. They have everything delivered by Amazon. They just watch stuff on streaming, and if they
we're the same. There is a lot of homogeneity there, and people, I guess, are becoming slightly more aware, and well, they're certainly aware, but don't necessarily take action on kind of sustainability issues. Everybody is mad about it and wants to do stuff, but doesn't actually put their money in their pocket and actually make choices in that direction, unless they're forced to legally or through taxation or what have you. But anyway, so you probably find a lot of similarities. And socially, things are just, people don't know how to behave towards each other anymore. You know, they kind of lean in for a hug and some lean back. And you used to kiss people on the cheek, and oh, you're kissing me on the cheek. Shall we shake hands? Do we do that in business now, or do we not do that? You know, a lot of confusion, really.
I'm so bad at fist bumps.
Yeah, a lot of fist pumping, and even elbows still going on. So there's a bit of a sort of hangover from that, and also you just can't go anywhere near you can't even go get your eyes tested or get a dental checkup without having to still wear masks or something, which we refuse to do and frequently walk out of places. So, you know, there's a lot of
Well, we've got a spectrum of views on all that subject on this show, and that's good. But
it's fine to have a spectrum.
It's interesting to have someone from another country chime in here. You know, I assume that England is still considered another country.
I think, technically speaking,
come on, Ollie, come on. How am I going to get to be president unless you guys join up? You've got to sign up to be 51st State of the Union, then I can be president. Otherwise, what's the point?
we kind of have in most ways, and that goes back a long way, right? But I think there's just a federal bit that hasn't officially happened yet.
Yeah, I'm here to Basingstokeify the United States by introducing roundabouts. And actually, it'd be quite popular because basically it's a very conservative town. It's Norman Tebbit, who was like Margaret Thatcher's, on Spitting Image, he was portrayed as all in leather and black, and like Margaret Thatcher's in full force. he declared that Basingstoke was the Tory model town at some point in the middle of the 80s because of our low unemployment rate and our solid conservative voting record.
Have you traveled in the United States?
Yeah, I've been to both coasts and a little bit of Texas. I wouldn't say I'm as well travelled as I'd like to be, but I've certainly been, maybe a dozen times to the US at different stages in my life. Well, I mean, going in the 70s as a kid, I absolutely loved it. We had a lot of great times. I was there in '95 for Charlie's wedding over in.
Oh yeah, coincidence, day of coincidences. Let's get back to that because that was. We remember we were down on Haight Street, and it was the day that Jerry Garcia died.
Well, exactly. So just taking a trip up, I was having a bit of a pilgrimage day, and just said, Charlie, look, I've got to go to Haight and Ashbury. He's like, where? I'm like,
That's not true. I was working for the Haight Ashbury Free Press at the time.
Yes, right. You knew all about it. I'm just teasing you. And he, and so I was kind of, walked up there, and I'd kind of gone an extra block down the road, and then this kind of, I swear this is a true story. This guy in a tie-dye t-shirt wearing sandals, kind of Birkenstocky kind of sandals and shorts. This is August, and he started running down the road with his kind of beard flying and hair flying everywhere, going, "Jerry's dead! Jerry's dead!" And I happened to be there anyway. The windows started opening, and kind of smoke started pouring out of them, and people started having a kind of a Jerry in. And it all kind of spiraled. So I just kind of hung around there for a while and talked to a lot of people. And Charlie came up, and we just kind of hung out there.
Had you been there? Yes, I was going to say I didn't remember that bit of that. The guy walking down the street. So I came and met you. So you'd been there for a little while. Yeah, because I didn't. Yeah.
It was a surreal experience.
I bet on Haight Ashbury.
Yeah.
When it happened to me, I was in Tucson, like at a mall, and it was a very different experience.
It was really you sort of felt like there was a little kind of epilogue on the counterculture that it just turned over and then been written as you were experiencing it.
I feel like a lot of people have this misconception about Haight Ashbury that like hippie-ness is like still alive, but in my opinion, it's been gone forever. There's this Haight Ashbury thing that caters to like tourists where, you can still buy bongs and t-shirts and stuff like that. But like culturally, San Francisco is so different now. There's so much money in the city. You can only afford to be here if you're like a hippie, I think, if you work in tech.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember going there. My cousin lived in San Francisco when I was born. We went over in the end of the 70s, and I remember as a kid hanging out around Ghirardelli Square and Fisherman's Wharf, and taking a walk around the city and all the kind of old buildings that were still around. And there was a real of course it was 10 years after the Summer of Love, but there was a real kind of laid back attitude to San Francisco. Everyone just drove around in much smaller cars than elsewhere. They were all beaten up for not having enough car parking space. So everybody was kind of used to jostling and all those kinds of. So I guess there's a culture there that probably does continue. But it was a really kind of cool place. It was just one of those places that really got into me, and I wish that I'd been able to go back more often to see Chuck and just be part of the watching it happen. But it feels like it's going to be culturally a very different place these days.
Well, it's very dead. Okay, well, this is the other thing that I like. My friend Megan sent me a thing about the city. They've been doing a program to fill downtown empty storefronts, but they've got more money being thrown at it this year. So I filled out an application to be a pop-up store in the summer. I don't know. It was a very half-baked application, but I thought, well, Dale, do you think that's a terrible idea?
Oh yeah.
What?
There's like Al Pacino there for a second.
Why is it so bad? I like my art show. I'm going to see this thing. If I get that signed up today, then I won't feel the need to be a pop star. But it might be fun. I mean, what could be the downside? They said they would provide you with all the assistance and sort of help that you need. So I put in this very over the blown pie in the sky sort of idea of my Planet Earth pop-up shop.
Yeah, it's the big Band-Aid. Don't do it.
When I'd put in the planetarium as well, Charlie. When do you get to hear back from them, or have
they said the first round of applications closes June 1st. So
okay, and do you have a marketing campaign to everybody who is on the board of deciding who gets what? Have you identified the individuals and kind of?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm just buying a lottery ticket, I suppose. But I got some credibility. Whatever. like all these things I did with Artspan last year. I got I did some events that were
Yeah.
You know, so I've got some experience with
That's a warm
popping
body,
up.
Sounds
so
great.
they'll pick him.
Yeah, maybe.
And they
so.
said they could accommodate like disabled, like, you know, they say, you know, are you whatever disabled, you know, what disabled accommodations do you need and all this
That
sort of
means
stuff.
they'll give you a bucket.
You're not fooling Dale. Dale's onto this obvious scam.
Charlie, could you also bring in any other kind of on-trend movements?
Well, I said I'd do community art events and workshops with music or something. I said some stuff. I just figured, like, if I couldn't make it all happen, it would be fine. I'd be like, well,
What about the youth?
I've got a little shelf of books, so I can have my different artist friends come in and exhibit. I can host. I could sublet to my comic friends, and they can run a little Comic Con in the front of the space. So I should put that in. I could do another one.
Well,
I said I'd sell my album. I said I'd be selling my album.
the reason San Francisco is doing these pop-ups is that they have a problem that since the pandemic, a lot of retail stores have closed. And they're
Yes.
trying to revitalize the downtown, but they realize that people are reluctant to invest in starting a retail store when their competition is online. And also there is propaganda being spread that San Francisco is not a safe or clean place to visit. And that's a big problem.
It's a little bit dirty, and it's safe, but there's a lot of petty, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of theft. I think this, like, as far as violence goes, it's probably about the same, but the package theft and stuff has gone up. But yeah, I know people that don't live here probably are getting a skewed idea of the city, but they always have, you know. Like when I first moved here, everyone just thought it was about gay pride parades everywhere and expensive houses. And those are the two things that everybody knew about it. And in their mind, that was the whole city. So I just feel like the nation's always had a skewed view of San Francisco. And now it's kind of one of these conservative talking points about when you don't check crime. When you don't check crime, here's what happens, folks.
Yeah, it's
And
going up a bit. They're saying, well,
happening.
it's still nowhere near what it was like in the 70s, but it definitely has ticked up a little bit.
Well, Ollie, in the town where you live, when you walk around or drive around, do you see a lot, because of the pandemic, did you see a lot of small shops close? Or
Yeah. So, you know, economically, we're, you know, no different from anywhere else in that sense. Retail is a really tough nut to crack, right? It's, you know, like you say, the world has moved online, and unless retail outlets and entertainment outlets can provide something as a draw for people to genuinely come to be entertained, then there's no reason to exist, right? It's cheaper elsewhere, it's more easy, it's more convenient. So anything that is better, faster, easier, or cheaper in that order is going to succeed over time. And
are you not entertained?
well, exactly. I was going to bring the idea of what is happening in San Francisco to back to Urfspace, if I may, and
Yes.
just wonder, Charlie, how much of the kind of cultural and environmental context of what is happening in San Francisco is influenced where your books have netted out. Are you having a poke at things? Is there anything there that you feel is directly relevant to what is happening in the immediate?
Can you have more package theft in your books?
Basingstoke 2096.
I read that.
I didn't really write any caption for that. I don't know why. I felt it spoke for itself. Like, San Francisco's always being destroyed in the sci-fi movies, so I was like, what's going to happen in Basingstoke? Well, it won't be much different.
no, it's not always destroyed.
That's true. The bridge has
Sorry,
been
I love
destroyed a lot
Basingstoke.
recently. There's Godzillas and stuff, and Planets
Even
of the Apes, and
Day on the Beach, even though everybody died because of radiation poisoning, the city was still standing.
Yes.
what?
Yeah, that's the sort of premise, I think. I've got like a whole comic where like the remnants of Basingstoke are all that's left on Earth. But also, I'm not quite sure your question. I didn't quite understand your question. Like, where have I netted out? I've netted out a net loss, generally speaking.
No, I guess my question is about: do you think that how San Francisco is there anything that kind of informs informs your Urfspace characters and the books?
Yes.
Are you kind of trying to tell a story there about what's happening locally, or is it more on a kind of...
It's more. I'm more of a global thinker, but I moved to San Francisco. I don't know. Well, it was just coincidence in a way, and like we're talking about day of coincidence. I came here with the job. I was working with AMR doing little language teaching, production, education market books. It was a great job. I loved it, and they needed someone to come for Longman, which is like Pearson's now, I think, to do some audio recordings. And I sort of came over and I came back and forth with that, and it was nice. I like coming over, and I like to hear a lot better. After, as I said before, I think I spent a bit of time on the East Coast, and I hadn't really liked that so much. And let's bring it all back. And then that's where I met my friend on the East Coast. I met my friend Dan Richer, who, as Ollie's demonstrated, he's one of the tallest people I know. Dan Richer's one of the shortest people I know. And they have the same birthday a year apart, so they're evil twins. So that's kind of fun. And then Dan came and spent a year in England. So I'd met him there, and he came and spent a year in England working. He lived in London, and we hung out quite a bit in that year, and that was a good time. And you got to know Dan quite well, didn't you, Ollie, as well? And you and him became quite good friends.
Coincidences. So every year, pretty much since, we send each other an email. We don't communicate in between, but we do send a long email, which is a sort of state of the nation.
Oh, great! Yeah.
The only person that I do that with. But he does the same to me, so which is kind of a nice thing on our birthdays.
He's an amazing guy. And one of my favourite photos I have is of you two standing together outside the United Nations building.
Very appropriate.
I love it. Anyway, yes, you're two of my very dear friends. So yeah, if you're born on that day, I guess you're probably pretty cool. I guess
it's also Mozart's birthday. I don't know whether I was just trying to get it back to music somehow.
Well, okay, yes. So the Day of Coincidences, I think, is about Mercury being in retrograde. So it's all about coming back. Or I'm not supposed to start to being retrograde till the 21st.
Well,
but
Ollie, in your town, do you have a record store?
We do. Yeah, we have a vinyl record store.
Okay. Is it one of those ones that has vinyl CD and then DVDs and Blu-rays?
No, it doesn't have DVDs and Blu-rays. It just has unbelievable records from back in the day
So
that you can't find anywhere else. Yeah, you can't find anywhere else. And also just a complete guitar shop universe. This amazing shop called Guitar Village that a town our size shouldn't have. That just has everything in it. It's a sort of store that it's bigger than any London guitar shop.
That's
so we're
cool.
Yeah, don't know why we have that, but there we go. Guitar Village.
I mean, maybe you're serving the London area. I mean, one thing about trying to buy stuff online is you have to have a guitar in your hand to make a decision, in my opinion. You can blindly buy them, but it's a real kind of crapshoot if it's going to feel right to you. And there's some things where you kind of have to, even if you buy them online afterwards, you have to experience them in person. Guitars being one.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Ollie,
all about the feeling, right?
We're getting questions from the viewers here. A viewer named Jerry Vahey, I think you would say that. She says, Ollie, where do you live? That's my friend Jerry. She's a drummer from the Seagulls. She's a very good friend, so it's all right. We've already told about that. He's in Farnham. But
bring up the map.
West of
London.
Oh yeah, here you go. Ollie's gonna.
West of
he's
London,
bringing Guitar Village.
30
Here we
miles
go.
west of London? Is
I'll
that what
copy
you said,
that
Ollie?
and put it in.
40 miles something of London.
I'm going to go with
West.
West.
Yeah, so southwest.
Metric west.
I'm not very good at copying and pasting, to be honest.
The arbitrary west.
Yes. I build you as Old West from back east.
Ollie, what's the weirdest shop that's
What's
in
the
town?
what?
The weirdest shop in town.
Oh, well, I don't know what the weirdest shop is, but there is a weird story about shops in Farnham. We used to have this shop called Evita Vonnie, which is the only other branch was in Mayfair in London. It was just the most unbelievably posh home interiors and furnishings shop right on the high street, and nothing in there was less than, say, $1,000. I mean, it was unbelievable. They would have fine art and all kinds of things. Anyway, it was quite a busy shop for a little while. And then I don't know why, but they decided to close, and it was replaced with a shop called Pound Stretcher, which everything is for $1.
Yeah, that's like the Pound Stretcher's the dollar store.
Yeah, the dollar store, and the very well off of around the area, took to the front page of the Farnham Herald in uproar, and the outrage was palpable of the Blue Rinse Brigade, who could not believe that Vita Boni had closed. It was they held a vigil outside, and
now, Ollie, there seriously isn't a Blue Rinse Brigade? There's no one with blue rinses anymore. I didn't like Blue Rinse was like Molly Sugden in Are You Being Served?
No, it's their whole soul has been rinsed blue.
Okay, that's right. Yes,
the colours are the
it's
other
a political
way around.
blue. All right,
Yeah,
yeah. It's a confusing. Okay, politically, it's a little confusing
round, right?
between the USA. Yes, in the England, the red is the colour of Labour and blue is the colour of Conservative. And here it's the other way around.
So the ultra-conservative, well-off of Surrey, is who I'm referring to, who really didn't like this change. So I guess that is now the weirdest shop, because you've got the dollar store, taking it.
Used to be the $1,000 store. It
used to be $1,000 store. It was the kind of the how times have changed. Ironically, our member of parliament, representative in the government, is actually our Chancellor of the Exchequer. He's the guy holding the purse strings in the government.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So he came on the other day. Yeah, all right. So how's that all going? So we got Richie Sunak. So I have to admit, I did sort of like shed a tear really when. Wow, we have a brown man became Prime Minister of England. That was quite a significant moment. But beyond that, I don't know. He seems to be doing quite a good job. But he's a conservative, he's like an old-fashioned conservative, I suppose, more than from what I've heard. I don't really know.
Is there a question in there, or?
I don't know. Well, yes, the question is, what's your opinion of him? I mean, like you've had Boris Johnson, he must seem like a refreshing change.
So
all right.
Okay, in sort of changing a soiled diaper for an old pair of underpants is probably the.
Wait, what's wrong with that? I don't question.
What's wrong with that? Nothing. When it comes to politics, I love nothing
in
more.
politics, you'd be happy if you've got any pants at all.
No,
I'm always disappointed. I'm always disappointed in our president as well.
Well, no, I know he's a pretty conservative guy, yes. So, and he's just sort of following the same old policies, yes. So, yes. Aside from that,
there are probably some good things. It probably does send some positive signals, but I'm not an ideologist. But if I were, it would be kind of standing for the antithesis of what I think will move the world forward. But anyway, British politics is a complicated thing. But I really don't want to get into any kind of strong views.
We're not really here for the Chris wants to have a breakaway show that's going to be all political dialogue. That would be quite good, and I'll listen to that show.
I kind of think partisan politics is really stupid and boring, and people spend way too much time on this partisanship stuff, and they spend way too little time on like systemic things, which are not really about like either side in this country. There are things that have been going on for decades, and it doesn't matter what party's in charge. Some big stuff just never changes. Military budgets, education budgets, the wealth distribution curve doesn't change. A lot of this stuff doesn't matter who's in the White House. But it does. Dale says all that's wrong. It's all wrong.
Well, what I would say in the true
you didn't mention Zardoz once. It doesn't make it.
I did. No, I mean, like I don't know how you view it, Ali, but it seems to me like there are these macro things that are on their horizon, and they're moving in a certain direction decade after decade. And it doesn't really matter in this country who's in the office. People feel better if one candidate versus another is there, but the plan just keeps on moving forward.
Without a doubt, there are things that are bigger than the individual, right? But it is up to
there
us.
Needs to be a meme.
It's kind of up to us all to stand up for what we believe in, and use the power that we do have to try and move towards what we think is going to be right. Unfortunately, it does feel like there's some unstoppable forces that are beyond any person's control. That we're all kind of somehow trapped in.
I don't think. I mean, I've said this a lot on the show, and they all know it. But it's not. I don't think it's so much the system, but it's the individuals. I'm a big fan of John Ronson and his book, The Psychopath Test. And I think we need to really sort of take into consideration like who are the people among us that are. I don't think our systems really sort of take account of that. It's a difficult issue, but I don't want to get too much into it. But
Ollie, on a side note, because you're in England, I have internet friends in England because I'm what's called a Fortean. I have a great deal of interest in UFOs and Bigfoots and fairies. And one of my favorite cartoonists, Hunt Emerson, draws a wonderful strip for the Fortean Times. Do you find living in England more conspiracy theory stuff, like the alien big cats and the fairy circles, and do you encounter that, or is that all just BS?
No. I mean, it's all there, just as it is anywhere else, right? So, I guess I'm always curious about why those aspects of culture continue.
Ollie's more of a skeptic. Ollie's more of a bullshit man. Like, that's bullshit.
Well, I'm just wondering if that's. I mean, where do you live? Is religion or conspiracy theories affecting your town?
I would say more in the sense of people's distrust of the media, mainstream media, distrust of government. Both have grown. Unfortunately, our judiciary is becoming undermined with lower investment, and so the length of which it's taking to hear cases that need to be brought is lengthening. And people are somewhat, should we say, attempts to kind of brainwash or dumb down or whatever, through whatever medium, whatever kind of control mechanisms. Those sorts of themes are around a lot, and the degree to which the pandemic and, should we say, associated narratives are, unhelpful to the greater good, and actually was there something there, a bigger picture there that that was about control and about kind of trying to service other agendas, and others will say that about the sustainability agenda as well, as is all part of a bigger thing. I guess my natural tendency, as Charlie says, is I tend to be a bit more of I like to think that I'm more of a realist and try to understand really how things happen, really what are the mechanisms by which things come to be. And my guiding principle is to generally follow the money on these things. And if you see who is profiting from whatever side you're hearing, you can kind of then make your own mind up whether that's a big corporate, big sugar, big pharma, whatever, right? There are all kinds of people.
Yeah, damn you, big sugar.
Well, big sugar
I'm going to focus on big sugar.
I've worked a long time in the food industry, and believe it or not, that is a big thing.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, I mean, but nobody's like, nobody's going on about big sugar, but yeah.
If you want to do your own research, you might actually find that is one of the probably quite believable aspects of why we actually ended up with Brexit. So you can do your own research on that. But
I was yeah.
You're saying
there's an awful lot of these stories.
The sugar industry was one of the factors in Brexit?
Yeah. You kind of have to follow it a little bit and go down the rabbit hole, but you can. It's there if you want to try and make some connections about the who stood to gain from various agreements.
Well, Chris likes to read about these things, don't you, Chris?
That's fascinating to me because I don't follow Brexit, but I know it's super contentious, and I don't really care. I mean, that much. But what's interesting to me is like, I hear these narratives, and I don't find them viable. Like the narratives that I've heard about Brexit, none of them make sense to me in the sense of like following the money or controlling resources or the world economy or the things that I think could cause a Brexit. Like I don't.
I put it at Putin's door, isn't it? Putin just very cheap. It's inexpensive for Putin to spread a little money to the right people, and they did all the meddling, and that's sort of what he's expert at, and that's what he wanted. You know, there was that like the sarin attack and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it might have been part of the how, but I think there's a why behind it. I mean, if you look at it just from a simple politic point of view, David Cameron was trying to shut down the right wing of the Conservative Party.
He was a network. Oh my God, I really did not like him. I mean, I laughed a lot when he lost
that. Was to put up or shut up, right? And unfortunately, populism and put into the wrong hands with a lot of believable but wrong evidence was persuasive and drummed up by a lot of fear, right? And a lot of it just got the emotional story better, and the rationalists fighting the other side, saying, but we're going to be poorer, we're going to be. Everyone didn't. Not enough people listened to that, and fear won the day, right? So anyway.
There's something with the.
There's some motive behind it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, fear.
Do you think it's Camilla?
Is what Camilla?
Well, are you familiar with David? I think it's pronounced Ike. Or Ike. David Ike. I'm
familiar with him. Yeah, he's been around a long time.
Yeah, since he was Jesus.
Do you think that the royal family has been taken over by reptilians?
Well, fascinating story, isn't it?
I saw the videos on YouTube. Their eyelids.
Yeah, they have
nictinating
membrane.
No, I don't. And probably quite controversially to those that do believe that, I believe they were always reptilian.
I don't know why suddenly they got taken over by them. Haven't you read Graham Hancock?
Okay. So
no,
they've been here all along.
There's some extraordinary things that fly around in that kind of conspiracy zone. But as I always like to say to people, be honest with yourself. Do you really think this is the way things are, or are you into it because it's entertaining? In which case, that's a very valid reason to be into it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that things like that, which seem to have like no good evidence to back them up, get lumped in with things that have tons of evidence, and they all get called conspiracy theories, even though one has tons of
it's
evidence.
A great way to muddy stuff, right?
Right, yeah. So they all get put into the conspiracy. So stuff that's totally legit, like let's say Tuskegee or something that's happened that has been later, or MK Ultra, which is a known thing that happened. It was probably a conspiracy thing at one point, but now is a known CIA operation. That would get lumped in with stuff like UFOs or the reptilian stuff. So it like kind of delegitimizes that whole thing.
Or they were created as distractions so people wouldn't research UFOs or reptilians.
Yeah, all of that makes more sense to me.
It's working.
PSYOPs isn't a new thing. We talked about the great designs of the Germany's late 1930s and 40s. That's all part of creating imagery and creating stories that are getting people to look the other way, right? And or to join
misdirection.
In to feel some kind of misdirection, or these things. I've worked in the marketing industry for a number of years and become quite adept at being able to communicate things and find out how you need to communicate something in order that it is going to help you choose one brand over another. And if these things can do, if you want to read Kahneman, thinking fast, thinking slow, the emotional response is going to win ahead of the rational, and those who are able to adequately convey emotional themes that evoke an emotional response that is stronger than the other guy that you're competing with, you're going to win. And so those are
that's
and
like
the emotion is sort of what comes through. I've sort of felt like recently in art, like no matter what you do, it's like the emotion is sort of what comes through.
Well, emotion is what causes people to make impulse purchases
and stop thinking.
Yeah.
Especially that fear emotion.
Well,
I always thought that, like, if I could add anything to the curriculum for kids, it would be propaganda study, and then it would be understanding money. Like,
well, we had that. We had Mad Magazine, but it's gone.
But yeah, stories and music, you can use it like art and music. You use to manipulate emotions, right? Like a story, like takes your emotions on a journey, like up and down and through, like, you know, through a path. I mean, I suppose yes. Okay, we're back to the concept album. You know, so you know, I would take the listener on a journey, you know, to go from here there. I'm not trying to end them up in any particular place. Well, you know, because the journey's the thing. Like, there's ends and means, but there's really no ends. There's only means.
Are you going to put backwards masking on the music?
what?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
well,
what does that mean?
You're not familiar with backward masking?
Oh, you mean am I going to put hidden messages in, like, watch
Zardoz?
Zardoz?
Backwards.
Dale Sifili is all known.
Is that what they call it? Is that what they call it? Like when you put a worship the devil in there backwards masking?
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. That's a common thing in music.
Well, yeah, okay, some subliminal messaging, yes. Ollie, you know our friend Danae. Her father worked in advertising in South Africa, she said, and she said that they were very definitely putting subliminal messages in South Africa into the ads.
I mean, you can research this as well, and subliminal messaging really has been researched quite a lot, and the simple aspect of it is, you know, trying to pass things into your subconscious, right, by shortening or reversing or finding some way of kind of influencing. But typically, though, in order to influence people, you have to enter the cognitive aspect, and usually the way it works is by eliciting a strong emotional response that then reinforces existing perceptions in your gestalt, right? So I don't know whether that's kind of a generally held view amongst this group, but it's less about trying to flush something up quickly and actually more about engaging somebody with something where they actually feel drawn to it and feel something as a result.
Well, feel positive and happy. I suppose that's what I want to leave people with.
Positive and happy. It can be fear, it can be sadness,
no,
it can be anything, right? But something that
but for myself, for this project.
Ollie, I don't know if you've seen the show before, but one of our continuing topics is that we're convinced that in the United States, there's a great deal of subliminal advertising and psyops to encourage cannibalism. We
haven't had this for a while. All right.
We don't all feel that way.
It's common where you live, but in the United States, for the last few years, it's all been zombies. And I don't know if zombies are popular in your town.
So we now need, on this call, we now need a in-house regulator who is the inspiration for the Pupil character, who also is highly involved with advertising regulation in the UK.
Yes.
He would have a very strong view about whether advertising is in any way allowed to convey any narrative that is aiming to influence people on a mass scale other than to buy stuff.
Yeah, the real life Pupil is way more successful than the comic Pupil.
Well, hey, you guys, I'm gonna get off the call, which I meant to do about a half hour
Chris,
ago.
It was a pleasure.
We've had a great time, and we have been going on a while. It's probably like but I'll hang around and we'll have a little chat off the air as well. But I think we're probably good for a show there. And thanks, Ols.
Let's end on cannibalism.
Yeah, it's going to cannibalism Zardoz. Well, the folks know all that.
Play the cannibalism theme song out.
All right, I'm gonna play the theme tune.
Another whole series, not just one show. That sounds like a topic for a whole series. So
yes,
it has been.
We'll be back next week, folks. Thanks, Ols. That's been brilliant. It's been great to see you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's great. Cheers. See you next time.
All right.
Oh no.
Here's a theme song for Chuck Whelan Showy. He asked me to write one, but I stole from David Bowie. Here's a theme song. Chuck Wheelan is the best. We have lots of hosts, but we're running out of gas. Will you be our guest on? Will you be our guest on? Be on the Chuck Wheelan Show. Whoa, 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 whoa.
If you're gonna have a show, you gotta have